Committee to Protect Journalists is really focused on journalists, and we've kept an eye on that. What we learned was that these 3 attacks that came in January were part of a larger pattern, which we'd already recognized, of course. But we count 10 journalists dead since, I think, 1999, directly through premeditated murder. Okay, 5 people going up and intentionally killing them. We're not counting journalists who were caught in crossfire or a bombing raid. We're talking about people who were killed by a person or persons who went to them with the intent to kill. None of those murders have been investigated, no prosecutions. Okay, the one prosecution we now see, and it's at least investigation, not a real prosecution yet, is that into La Santa, Rarotonga. But frankly, we don't have much faith in it, and we think it's not going to go very far. Aware of this problem, we see it as an attempt to silence the media in Sri Lanka. In the past, it's been Tamil journalists who've been targeted, much more so. Now we're seeing other journalists also come under the gun, or actually not under the gun, under the iron rod. Lasanta was killed. His right temple was penetrated by what was most likely an iron rod, possibly a wooden one. I think it was iron. There was no gunshot or fire used to kill him. He was attacked by 8 men on 4 motorcycles in broad daylight on a busy road in the suburban Colombo. Upali Tennekom was attacked but not killed in a very similar manner. Upali survived. This time 4 men on 2 motorcycles came. They used a combination of wooden rods to bash in the windshield and go after him, and then an iron rod, a pointed iron rod, to try and literally kill Upali. When I saw him in the hospital, he's still recovering at the end of January, I said, "Do you know who did this?" He said, "We do not have the faintest idea who did it." He said, "Why did they do it?" He said, "We do not understand why they did it. But I do know, Bob, that they were trying to kill me." His wife saved his life. She threw herself across his body. Upali pierced through both hands, putting his hands up to protect himself. And the killers are coming in like this. Both hands pierced, and under the right eye, hit by an iron bar. I guess the cheekbone is broken.
Why do you think that there has been a lack of investigation into these horrific crimes?
I think there's a human rights problem in Sri Lanka that's not unique to journalists. I think a lot of deaths, murders, killings go uninvestigated, unreported. My concern is that or the Committee to Protect Journalists' concern is that when journalists come under attack, there's something larger happening than just a silence of political opposition. What you're trying to do is silence the media. And frankly, we see these attacks accelerating from the time that President Rajapakse first served as Prime Minister in 2006, and then assumed the presidency. In that period that he was holding high office in Sri Lanka, we saw an increase in these attacks. We also can draw a pretty parallel line between the decision to back away from the peace process, which I think the blame falls to both sides here, back away from the peace process on the part of the government, and then decide to go for an all-out military victory. With an all-out military victory, you want to have a complacent media and on the home front as well, and I think that's what the government finds that it has to try to enforce. That the government is responsible for the aura of impunity that allows these attacks to take place. And frankly, if you ask the journalists who were attacked, who attacked them, they will say it was the government. it was the military operating under.
Why is it that they say that?
I think they feel that they've been threatened. We know the Defense Secretary Gotabaya Rajapakse, the president's brother, has specifically named many of the people who have been under attack. They've been specifically named on the Defense Ministry's website as being traitors. Traitor is being a particularly loaded term at this point because when a country's at war like this, calling someone a traitor is much more different, has much different connotations and implications than during a peacetime situation.
Sure.
Like I say, we saw these attacks accelerate. We saw mainstream media in the last few years come under attack. In addition to these few deaths and these few attacks in January, we're also aware of about 8 other journalists who have fled the country.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about before it was usually Tamil journalists in numbers who are attacked, threatened, and so forth, and now it's moved into mainstream media, lots of singular journalists. Why has that shift been made?
I think that the government decided that it would brook no criticism. The defense establishment decided that many of these targets, by the way, are defense columnists. That the government would not tolerate people being critical of the military establishment while it was pursuing a military solution to the conflict with the Tamil people and the LTTE. My feeling about Sri Lanka, why it's important, is that there's a human rights issue, of course, and this is one of Asia's oldest democracies, and they haven't gotten it right hardly ever, frankly. And just, we can pick on the Rajapakse government, but there have been other governments who've been huge human rights abusers, and I'm afraid that's the heritage of the country. I think governments are struggling about how to engage with the Rajapakse government in a way that will genuinely move them off of this position that they're in. They're proving to be a very hard nut. We're seeking a meeting with President Rajapakse. At the time, the ambassador in Washington said, you must come and meet and speak with the government about this. Well, I've already had a lengthy conversation with the Attorney General. I've already had a lengthy conversation with the Foreign Minister, Bolagama.
Can you tell me any difference any of that has made?
Not much. Not much.
Has there been any positive movements forward?
No, I think it's getting worse.
What do you blame that on?
I blame it on the government's policies of pursuing an all-out victory against the liberation tigers of Tamil Elam, and it's feeling that it's necessary to have no dissent, or at least along military lines, within the community, within its domestic community. And I see the government intentionally shrinking the space of media freedom. The government is going after journalists because it can't tolerate criticism within the media.
How is it using the media to push their agenda forward?
It's silence its critics. If you read, no one's reporting on, the reporting on the fighting is incredibly limited now. Access is limited, but people certainly have sources. The films work all over the country still. That reporting's been curtailed. Reporting on the military establishment has been curtailed. I think in a country where there's always been pro and anti-government newspapers, I think the pro-government newspapers are more pro, and there's fewer anti-government voices right now. I see that space shrinking.